friends, and welcome to day 24 of Inktober. I am still getting my tape to tape down my paper because I forgot to do that. Okay, thank you so much everybody for joining me once again for Inktober. I am ready to have some fun with today's video, and I hope you are too. So my inspiration for today comes from Psalm 121, 1 and 2. And it says, I lift my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. It is really hard to read a version that I haven't memorized. Hi, Sarah. So I always read them even if I've memorized the verse because, well, number one, because I am online and my brain says, oh, you're videoing, you're going to get this wrong. And the second reason is because having grown up going to many different churches, I've heard some of these famous verses in a whole lot of different versions. And I'm liable to get it wrong. And as I proved today, even when I'm reading it, I can get it wrong. And put from in way too many places. But that's all right. As long as we get the meaning behind the verse, that's all that truly matters. Okay, we are all taped down and ready to go. I said that too soon. Okay, now we're ready. So, I went with, I guess, the obvious, a mountain scene for this verse. And decided I'll do a limited palette, which is the idea of using only a few colors rather than a full range of them. Okay. So just before going live, I was getting a little palette ready so I could mix some colors. And play around. As I've proved, I do a lot of experimentation during Inktober. I like to try new things when there's not as much on the line. So since this isn't actually an official commission for anybody or a specific thing that I'm doing, I'm more likely to experiment, try new things, and see what I like. So this is a good forum for that. Oh, you're welcome. I'm glad I made you laugh. And I just love mountain ranges. You can just see mountains piling on top of each other and going back into the distance. And then there's something about waterfalls. So those two things were things I wanted to incorporate in today's drawing. Sort of took the day off today, so I haven't done as much drawing today. But it also gave me more time to actually plan ahead and decide what I wanted today's Inktober to look like and what I wanted to do. So hopefully today's turns out awesome. And if it doesn't, I don't have any good excuses for it. Now when I'm working on my book, I'll often do this sort of initial drawing in my ink, and then I'll go in later. Oh, I'll let it dry and then I'll erase all of the lines. So I have something clean to work from, and then I'll go from there and do my shading and all of that. And that seems to be a method that works pretty well for me. I'm sure as I get more practice and time working, doing comic books and illustrations and things like that, I am sure that my methods will evolve and change as I get better. But for now, I think I'm pretty happy with that method. A funny looking rock here. Yeah, depression does that, doesn't it? Sort of creeps in when you're not paying attention. I'm glad I can give a good respite from life. That is definitely, especially when it comes to mental health, as somebody who deals with depression myself, something that I am aware of, and I'm glad to hear that I can give that escape like other YouTubers have given me. Oh dear. I just glanced at my palette and all of the ink that I put on it has decided to morph into one big blob. So we'll see what kind of colors I end up getting. Since I went with a limited palette, I am using only black, purple, and blue. So it won't look terrible. It won't look like a really ugly brown or yellow, but might not quite go with what I'm looking for it to look like. So just before going live here, I was watching the Fine Bros, and they did some videos of try to answer these questions incorrectly, and if you have anything correct in your answer, you essentially get it wrong. It kind of hurts my brain, but it was really funny watching them try and come up with answers that had nothing to do with the questions. I know I was going somewhere with that, and I don't remember where. So there, fun little tidbit. One of the YouTubers that I like to watch are the Fine Bros and their React channel. Oh, that's crazy. I wonder what I was going to say. Either way, the part that I found the hardest in their challenge was they did music lyrics, so they'd play part of a song, and then you'd have to give the next line without giving any of the words that are in the actual song. And my brain wants to sing the song and not come up with a whole new story. However, one of the guys they have on there is frighteningly good at lying and coming up with his own stories without missing a beat. Very entertaining. Okay, so I'm doing more of a silhouette sort of drawing today. I feel like I need another mountain in here. Let's add, boop, kind of a taller, maybe slightly more rugged looking thing here. Okay, so I wanted to go with more of a silhouette. So the closest things I want to be black, except for my water. My water's going to be white, I believe. And going to be black with just highlighted sections. And then as I go back, it's going to get lighter and lighter, that lovely atmospheric perspective that I talk about a lot. This little guy here is supposed to be a little bit of an overhang over the river. I guess it turned out to be a river, not a waterfall, didn't it? The original idea was that it was going to be a waterfall, but I guess just wanted to be a little river. Oh, thank you, Sarah. Sarah is one of my biggest cheerleaders. And if I'm having a day where I don't feel like I can create art or wonder what in the world I'm doing with my life, she tells me that I'm awesome, which I think we all need somebody in our lives who can tell us that every once in a while. But you guys should know that she's awesome too. And she's awesome for encouraging me and being there for me. She's been live on almost every single one of my videos. Or not live, but watched almost every single of my videos live. Something like that. So, Sarah's awesome. Shout out to Sarah. And because you're awesome. Just saying. Okay, so as you can see, I'm leaving little white highlights to give ideas of ridges in the rocks, or just like pebbly type rocks here at the bottom. But for the most part, I'm going for a solid black in this front area here. And I need to make sure I keep my separation between the different goodness, words are not my friend today. I start talking and they all go away and leave me hanging. Planes, that's the word I was looking for. So I want to make sure I keep the distinction between the different planes so that you can see more of the three-dimensional nature, even though it is going to be mostly blacked in. going to try and work a little bit quickly here. I'm not good at working quickly, but because I'm doing most of this with my pen rather than my brush, because I want it to get the textures in there, and because most of this will be in, it might be a longer video today, but I also don't want to keep you guys too long here. I'm really curious to know what the color's going to be once I actually get to my mixed inks here. Kind of excited about this idea, and I'm really hoping it works out well. Never know if the things in my head are actually going to come out correctly on paper. I'm going to do the pure black through here and up to this tree here, and then I'll start switching colors and watering it down a bit. This little tuft of grass here. So it's funny because sometimes when I dip my pen, I'll bump the edges of my ink container with my pen, and so then it gets all around here. um, and so the most common place for me to have ink is on this knuckle, my middle finger here. And you can tell when I've been doing a lot of inking because it just sort of becomes a little permanent stain there. Not permanent, semi-permanent. And speaking of doing a lot of inking, I'm hesitant to say this because I haven't worked as hard on it as I wanted to this week, but I am nearing the end of the drawing phase of my book, and I'm very excited about that fact. Hoping next week sometime to start inking it, and so it'll start coming to life. And you've heard it here first. The publishing date is set for end of November. That's the goal, at least. So tell all your friends that Kimberly Riggs's book, named Farron, is coming out in November, end of November. I'm really excited to actually see it finished after all of the time that I've put into it. And I hope you guys are excited about it too. Before I do the tree, I'm going to move on to the other side. And not to jinx it or anything, but I'm really glad that my app is working for me today. Had a hard time getting it going yesterday. Kept closing unexpectedly on me. So hopefully today we have no problems, but we seem to be streaming pretty well today, so I am thankful for that. So I don't really celebrate Halloween. Never been much of a fan of it. But this year I am planning out a special drawing. Well, I hope it's special. I've had an idea of what I've been wanting to do on Halloween for my Inktober since basically the start of it. So that's something to look forward to. Tell your friends to tune in on Halloween and watch me draw. That is, if you don't have plans already, or like me, aren't a fan of the holiday. Not even really a holiday, because most places don't close. Well, maybe they do. I don't know, is it an official holiday? Either way, if you don't already have plans and need something exciting to do, tune in, because I will be here like I have been every day this month. And hopefully I'll have something slightly Halloween-y type thing, subject planned. And so, yeah. I'm excited. I think it'll be cool. Do I think I draw better than Leonardo? Um, Definitely not. That would be an amazing skill to get, to be able to draw as well, if not better, than Leonardo da Vinci. But I definitely don't think I'm there. And actually, speaking of Leonardo, I actually like his sketches better than his finished paintings usually. So he's got this really beautiful one that it looks like it's just a study of um, a portrait of this lady girl. She's got curly hair and it's on a tan paper. Anyway, it's just beautiful, and I think it's my favorite thing that he's ever done. What about Picasso? Um, that's a hard one because I don't know if it's fair to compare me to somebody who has a very different style and whose artwork I do not like much. I can appreciate, um, I've learned to appreciate what he's done, but I'm not a Picasso fan. So, would I say I like my art better than his? Yes, I definitely like what I do better than what he did. Do I think I'm better than him? I don't know. Probably not. Um, Definitely an interesting question, though. I've never actually considered it or wondered. Um, yeah, I think that Picasso actually was a talented artist. Um, from what I understand, he was in one of the world wars, and he saw a lot of horrible things, and that affected his style and how he drew. And that is why a lot of his stuff looks like it does, because it was Picasso trying to paint his angst, trying to get what he was experiencing emotionally out on canvas. And because I feel like I can understand a little bit of where he was coming from, I mean, I've never been through a war really, but that sort of thing, I can appreciate his stuff. Um, but I'm not, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a fan. So skill level is not an easy thing to judge, I would say. Van Gogh was pretty awesome. I didn't used to like him much, but the more I learn about him, the more I appreciate him. He's got some really interesting quotes out there about art. Um, oh, hey Jeff, welcome back. I would probably say that of the classical artists, I would say Raphael's probably one of my favorites. I like I like the drama and the depth in his art. Um, he's got a lot of dark versus light things going on, and if you haven't noticed, I like strong contrast. Um, okay, so I rinsed off my pen, and I've got my mud of colors here: blue, purple, and black. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to that, and I was gonna go in with my pen, but maybe I won't, or maybe I'll start with my pen, and then I'll switch to my paintbrush. Okay, pick up some of that and see what color it turned out to be. Dark. A lot darker than I want it to be. So I'm going to switch to my brush real quick here and water it down. Yeah. So the purple's not showing up much, mostly blue. I'm okay with that. So this section I want to be just a little bit lighter than the section in front of it, but not by too much. Enough to differentiate the two. But as I'm going to be getting lighter and lighter the further back I go, I want to make sure that, oh, I picked up a lot more blue that time, that I don't go too light too quickly. And I'm working kind of quickly right now to mix things because I don't want it to dry too much while I'm still adding water and playing with the depth of the color. Ooh, that got a little darker than I would want. I'm gonna put that back there. Okay. Ooh. Computer's trying to talk to me. Okay. Yeah, you could probably watch me draw. Maybe not directly behind my shoulder, but yeah. I'll probably be working on my book some while you're here anyway, so you can watch me work on that. And I'm getting more used to having people watch me draw and paint, so that's good. For a while I was really self-conscious and didn't want anybody to see it until it was done and looking amazing. And as my confidence grows, and actually with doing this Inktober thing live, it's made a big difference for how I feel about drawing in front of people, I think. Still self-conscious, but I'm doing it a little bit lighter, closer to the ground, to give that kind of fun, almost misty look. Ooh. Okay, I'm just sort of going to blend that into one hill, I think. There's going to be two different ones. I might come in later with my pen and do a few more details. Thank you. I'm kind of excited about how this one's going to turn out. I'm hoping it's really awesome. Okay, so my next layer, I'm going to go even lighter. And I want it to be more blue. I'm going to kind of sketch it out on the top here, and then go in with my water and bring down the color. I don't think I want to go any darker than that. And I definitely want my black tree to stand out silhouetted, so I want to make sure that the things that are behind it are lighter. And I can use where I add marks of ink as sort of a texture thing as well, because it dries relatively fast, and so as it dries it will leave those spots darker. Ooh, that got a lot darker than I wanted it to. So we're going to get it nice and wet. Okay, I'm going to switch to my trusty old paper towel here. I'm just going to dab it to lighten that up just a touch. Yeah, I think that'll work. Yes, I'm adding water to lighten the ink. And essentially it's just thinning it down and using the white of the paper behind it to make it look lighter. Okay, and then I want this layer even lighter, which so far isn't working. It's a little darker than I'd like. Oh, paper towel. So I think if I were to describe it to somebody, I'd say that ink is an interesting in-between area between watercolor and acrylic paint. So like watercolor, you need to plan out where you're going to put your whites, where the lightest spots are going to be. It's probably more like watercolor than it is like acrylic. But as a painter, I tend to equate it more, I don't know, with acrylic. Maybe that would be erroneous, I'm not sure. So my tree's not completely dry, because, and you can tell because I've dragged some of the black off of it and into this mountain behind it. But since it's all the same color palette, it still works pretty well. Oh, I like that. Okay. You should try ink someday, Sarah. Or maybe when you come out here, I'll make you. I think, well, obviously I love it. I think it's a lot of fun. And I don't know, I think everybody should try it because I love it. Okay, lots of water. Kind of want this mountain to almost not even be here, which I'm not starting off very well with. You know, it's kind of starting to look a little bit like one of those Asian paintings you'll see in like Chinese restaurants and stuff. I was hoping that this back mountain would be more purple, but I seem to have lost my purple in my mix of colors, so. Dab that one down too. Oh, that turned out nicely. Okay. Yeah, this mountain turned out a little darker than I would like it to. But I don't think there's much I can do about it now. It does look a little bit like I've got some cold clouds sitting in between those mountains though, so that's kind of fun. Now, I was going to go in with my pen, but maybe I won't. Maybe I'll go back in with my brush, because it's probably still kind of wet, and so the pen will likely rip the paper. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to add a few more details, a little more depth in some of these. That got a little darker than I wanted. It's okay, that worked. It doesn't have to be amazing for you to do it, though. I was actually, as I was scrolling through Pinterest looking for inspiration for today's drawing, one of the things I came across was an encouragement to enjoy your hobbies, whether you're good at them or not, whether you have practice or not, whether you sell them or not, whether you share them with people or not, that hobbying is for you, and it doesn't have to be amazing, that you should enjoy it and do it anyway. So that's my encouragement to you, Sarah, is if you enjoy it, you don't have to do it all the time, and you don't have to share it with anybody if you don't want to. But I still recommend doing it. And what I'm doing to the mountain here is called dry brushing. So I'm getting a lot of the moisture off of my brush, and then I'm sort of scrubbing it in. That's giving me kind of a fun texture while still darkening things down a bit. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to remind you guys that at the end of this month, all of these drawings will be scanned in and posted on my website, which is KRiggsArt.com, and they will all be for sale. So if you like what you see, it could be even more fun being that you've watched me do it, and you can say, yeah, I saw how she did that. They will all be for sale at the end of the month. Yeah, I'm going to darken down one more mountain, I think, and then we'll be about done. Yeah, but art is still good for mental health. It's a good release. Well, that's what I was talking about with Picasso, is I don't like what he did necessarily, but I can appreciate it because his mental health was a mess. He was dealing with his reaction to the war and what he saw and did and stuff in the war. And so it's a good way of processing, I think. I don't know. I know my mental health goes down when I'm not creating art, but then everybody expresses differently, and I know you're a singer, so maybe that's where you get your mental health help from. And when I was getting ready, I definitely put way too much ink on my palette for what I was needing. That's something I need to work on, is moderating how much I get out. I use a lot of paint when I'm working with oils because I like playing with the textures and stuff. And I sometimes forget, I think, that the same can't be done necessarily with ink, and it doesn't last as long. So once I pour it out, that's it. It's poured out. But I'm learning. Yes, writing's a good mental health thing too, I think. I know that writing helped me a lot too. Huh. Well, that's definitely an interesting looking drawing. I'll put it that way. I am fascinated by my transition from the more graphic, comic looking style, going more painterly in the background. And I might play with that look more in the future. It's kind of fun. But I think we have reached the end of my drawing. I think I'm pretty happy with it. And oh look, it's actually dry enough I can sign it while still live with you guys. If I can find my white pen. White pen, where'd you go? Ah, there it is. Oh, thanks, Jeff. I'm rather pleased with it. Okay, there we go, and it's signed. One last thing before I sign off. If you haven't subscribed yet, it can really help me as I am trying to kick this off into more of a business. And if you really want to help, I have a Patreon account. You can support me for as little as $1 a month. And if you do, my first 50 patrons are getting an awesome swag bag. It's going to include sticker. It's going to include one of these amazing pens with my logo on it. And some other stuff too that'll be surprises for you guys. So my first 50 patrons, and they alone get this awesome swag bag. Limited to my first 50 patrons. So that's over on Patreon, patreon.com, KRiggsArt. And it's available to any of my patrons if you're a $1 tier or 100. So if you want to help me continue to make awesome videos and paintings, please consider supporting me there. And thank you for tuning in today. I really appreciate you guys. You're awesome, and I will see you all, or talk to you all tomorrow.